Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. We have an incredible episode today. We're going to talk some college football, little college hoops, but first, we have to start with an incredible introduction for an incredible guest. He is Youngstown State's SID for multiple sports within their athletic programs, an absolute weapon on TikTok with 100,000+ followers. He is the man, the myth, the legend, not to be confused with all-time great Dallas Cowboys quarterback, Anthony Romo. Welcome to the show, brother.
Cody, thanks for having me, man. This is about around a year ago when we first kind of connected with each other with college basketball coming back up, and I'm happy that we've been able to keep this connection going.
Yeah, college sports is it's such a great uniter. But I have to ask, your TikTok account, your Instagram, and all that stuff, it's 330 Sports Report. So if you don't recognize the beautiful face behind the camera here, and if you're not watching on YouTube, go watch on YouTube because it's much like, don't get me wrong, my voice, I love to hear myself talk, but if you like to see us, go check out the YouTube channel. That being said, I love your content. You're starting to show a lot more of the face, but where did the inspiration from the account come from? Was it because it's that 330 is the area of Akron, Youngstown, Ohio?
Yep.
Is it more Akron? Is it more Youngstown? Like, what is the basis behind the account?
So first off, he said this is the account 330 Sports. It's kind of backwards right now, but yeah. So the backstory is actually kind of crazy. So a lot of people, well, first off, 330. It's Youngstown, Akron, kind of Steubenville area. The claim to fame from the area code is LeBron James. He's from Akron, and he's just a kid from Akron, just a kid from the 330. The 330 is just such a sports-centric area. I mean, athletes galore. It's a sports mecca, especially for football coaches. So many football coaches have come out of Youngstown, whether you're talking Bo Pelini, Mark Stoops, Bob Stoops. The list goes on. Vince Morrow was at Kentucky. The list is so long, but I'm proud to be from this area. I currently work at Youngstown State, like you had said, and I'm in my mom's office right now. This is the best light that we have in the house. So if you see the teaching stuff behind me, she was a first grade teacher for a very long time. And then in the mid 2010s, she started getting into content creation herself long before I did. And she worked it up to the part where, she's doing this full time now. And it's helped me out a lot because, I have a ring light up here and I'm using a camera that she uses. So I don't have to use my laptop camera. But anyways, the TikTok account, the backstory is pretty funny. So a lot of people don't know. 330 Sports Report is actually my third TikTok account that I've run. So the content started as a hobby during COVID lockdown in 2020. In about March, April, I was bored around the house and I was like, I've loved putting videos together here and there. And I was like, you know what, let me just start putting some stuff together. Why not? And the first kind of edit that I did, it was Braxton Miller top 10 plays on an account called Highlight Huddle. That was my first account. And then I just started posting daily because there's nothing else to do. I was doing weekly edits. So I did Braxton Miller, Ezekiel Elliott, mostly Ohio State stuff to start because Northeast Ohio State pretty much covers most of the state fan-wise. And I got that account up to about 16,000 followers by, October 2020. And then out of nowhere, my views plummeted. And I couldn't get them back, and I was shadow banned, which a lot of people kind of know that term in social media. And it got to the point where I have 16,000 followers and my videos are getting 200 views. And I was just like, and I was trying to work through it. And there was a kid I went to high school with, a buddy of mine, who was a year younger than me, and he blew up on TikTok right before COVID. He has over 1 million followers. So I was asking him, what is this? I'm like, he must have some ins in TikTok because he moved from Hubbard. He was out in LA. He was content creating with them. And he was like, yeah, it happens. So a buddy of mine that also started making content with the same time around I did, he had this account called the Heisman House. And he got that to about a few thousand followers, and he was just like, it's not for me. So luckily, graciously, he gave me the account, so I didn't have to start from scratch. And I got that account up to about 50,000 followers through November 2021, and that account gets shadow banned too. Out of nowhere, views plummet, and I'm like, I was about to give up then, honestly. I was like, you know what? It takes so much time and effort to try to grow this page from the bottom up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try again. I create 330 Sports Report in, December of 21 and gradually start to work it up. And then yeah, I mean, it's taken off. I'm at 119.8 thousand followers right now. I'm so close to 120. I want to get there so badly. And yeah, I mean, the account really started to blow up. I started doing these kind of score edit type of things in about 2022 where I'd have a song, the Night Night song by Quinn NFN was the first song that I started using for it, and it was around March Madness of 22. And I can't even take full credit. There was an account that I saw kind of do this score edit where, you know, it was a big dunk. It was a Kansas game. I forget who they were playing. He did a big dunk, and when the ball went through the hoop, boom, like the score popped up. And I was like, you know what? I want to try that. So I did it, and I started posting a few, and people kept commenting like, oh, do Kentucky, Alabama, do Ohio State, Purdue, do this game, do that game. And I was like, you know what? I can do some of this. Is like an endless content glitch because there's so many college basketball teams. I started making content, and man, I was in the creator fund at that time, which it was just you make profit off of videos. It doesn't matter the length. So, I mean, there were college basketball Saturdays. I think the most videos I made in one day was like 32 videos I posted on TikTok. When you get into the peak college basketball, like January, February, there's games starting at noon, and they're going all the way until 2 in the morning. You have your SEC teams playing at noon. You have your Big Ten teams playing in the afternoon. You have your West Coast teams, Pac-12 then, the WCC. They're playing in the wee hours of the morning. Then I kind of got away from that a little bit, the score edits. Not that it was getting stale, and I still post them from time to time, but it got to the point where I was in a different creator program where you make profit, and the program I'm in now, you only make money off of videos longer than a minute, and the score edits were 8 to 10 seconds long. So I didn't want to clog my feed with those videos when I know I'm not making profit off of them, and they're burying the videos that I'm putting a lot of time and effort into. So yeah, that's kind of what I do now. And like I mentioned, it was funny. So we're coming up on a year. This guy, Cody, gave me a little bit of a shout out a year ago. So it was the first day of the college basketball season last year. And this is funny because you've never heard this backstory either. I was just posting content, and at the end of the night, I was like, you know, I wanted something to post, and I want to say it was VJ Edgecombe for Baylor had this crazy dunk against Gonzaga the first night of the season. So that was the inspiration. I was like, you know what? Let me do like a top 10 dunks from the past few seasons, and I posted it. And the next day, I'm in the office at YSU, and I just go on the app, and I'm just scrolling. The first video I see is it was like 5 TikTok college basketball creators you need to look out for this season, and I was like, I didn't even see I was tagged in it, and it was your video. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to watch it. I was like, what are the odds? And like the 4th person, my account pops up, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like I screenshotted, like I sent it to my family. I was like, you will not believe this. And that's the first time we kind of connected. And then just from time to time, we keep in store with each other's videos.
Yeah, it's cool to see, because I'm always interested in how people get into the content game, because it's so counterintuitive to what a lot of us grew up. It's like, man, I don't like public speaking. I don't like doing the whole thing. And to see, especially the evolution of your content, because you talk about the score edits, which that was how I first came across your stuff, right? And seeing the score edits throughout the March Madness and like conference tournament week, I was like, this is incredible. You've now started posting like the story content and going into the background of it. And it's crazy to me that you started doing the content stuff and then grew into because you do broadcasting, like you call Youngstown State volleyball games. I've seen clips of you on ESPN, right? Sports Center top 10 moments. And I hear your voice and I'm like, yo, what are we doing here? To go starting with not talking in your videos to now be creating the storylines and being a reporter, calling your own, showing your own calls. It's so cool to see how that's developed in a very quick amount of time. It is,
yeah.
The 2022 is not that long ago. That's quick. So yeah, it's cool to see.
And it's funny because I can't remember, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, the other sound. I don't want to give some dead air on this real quick. I'm going to try to find a video real quick. I can't remember the one sound that I started adopting around March Madness the one year. I don't want to look off the screen. It's fine. And that song I kept posting over and over for kind of March Madness. And it's still funny because around March every year, someone will post that TikTok sound and they'll be like, this is how you know March Madness is coming. And I get tagged in all these comments of people like, this is the account. And I'm like, this is so cool. But
It's like the, how they post like a little snippet of the Mariah Carey, and it's like she's unthawing. It's like Anthony's back to making edits, like rise from the dead, baby.
And it's so cool because even like last year, I didn't post as many edits, but basketball season is when I post more. I try to do a little college football with the edits, but college football is a lot harder, and people don't understand. If you don't make content on TikTok and you don't use the sounds, people don't understand that if you look up a song itself, TikTok's only going to give you 10 seconds of the song that they think is the best. You can't move the sound at all.
Which is
football
plays because Instagram is so much better.
Instagram, yeah, I've started doing the edits on Instagram because you can use any part of the song.
Yes.
But TikTok, I try to do a little college football, but the thing that makes the basketball plays work is from the time someone's on the 3-point line to the ball going in the hoop, about 3 seconds happens. Football, if I can't do an edit of someone scoring an 80-yard touchdown because it takes 14 seconds for them to get across the field, and I can't move the TikTok sound for it to work. Anyways, that's another story. So yeah, at first when I made content, not that I was embarrassed or anything, I just didn't want people to know that the account was me. So I just did these edits. In the first video that I posted with my voice, it was like a day in the life thing of me calling a game, and it was our women's basketball season opener 2 years ago. And I was like, you know what? Let me just like do like a follow the whole day with me, whatever, why not? And that was the first time I showed my face, and then people are texting me like, wait a minute, this account's you? And I'm like, yeah. But yeah, like you said, the broadcasting, that's always been a goal of mine since I was younger. I've always been deeply in love with sports, always watched it all day, every day since I was young. And I always wanted to get into broadcasting. And there was when I was in high school, I was really lucky. When I was in high school, there was a local streaming company that had just kind of started up, and they came to my high school and they were like, hey, they were looking for students who wanted to call games for their company. And I was like, I'll do it. So I did girls basketball my junior year of high school. And then my senior year, I started calling football, boys basketball, girls basketball. So I got a lot of reps when I was in high school calling games. Yeah. And I live about 20 minutes from Youngstown State. And it was a place I kind of always knew I was going to go to because they have a great sports broadcasting program. I was really lucky because one of their workers high up in the sports department, athletics department at YSU, I graduated the same year of high school as his daughter. I was good friends with her. So winter break, my senior year of high school, one of my friends, she texted me and she's like, hey, my dad said that they're looking for people that want to work in athletics as student assistants at YSU. I figured it's something you might want to do. So I'm like, sure. So I drive over to YSU. A few days later, I meet with Trevor Parks, who's now my boss, one of the best bosses in the business. And he's like, yeah, like we'll take you on. And I started out, my freshman year was COVID, 2020-21 was my freshman year of college. And I started helping out in athletics. And the first jobs I had, I was editing mic'd up videos for our football coaches because the FCS in 2020 did not have a fall season. They moved their football season to the spring. So we didn't have any sports going on during the fall at YSU. So the way that they were filling their social media pages was through these mic'd up videos. So I edited those, and then I did camera for women's basketball and men's basketball. And then my buddy Richie, who I called a lot of games with both for the streaming company and at YSU, he graduated 2 years before me. He's also now off to a great broadcasting path. Lives in Knoxville. He's one of the broadcasters for the Knoxville Smokies, who are the AA affiliate of the Chicago Cubs. He was our baseball play-by-play voice, and he was on the road with them, and they had like a flight delay coming back. So my boss asked me if I wanted to step in for our women's basketball Horizon League tournament game against Purdue Fort Wayne. And I was like, yeah, like awesome. I was so nervous, got through the broadcast. Fast forward though, this is my 6th year. I'm in my 2nd year as a graduate assistant in athletics, as you kind of mentioned in the open. So I did all 4 years of undergrad at YSU, got my bachelor's in telecommunications with the sports broadcasting track. And this will be my 6th year calling softball on ESPN Plus, 4th year calling volleyball, 4th year calling women's basketball. Oh, I feel like I'm missing a sport. I did lacrosse, women's lacrosse, all 4 years of undergrad. So broadcasting's always been my thing, and I've been lucky. Like you mentioned, I just a few weeks ago I had a call during our volleyball match that landed at number one on the Sports Center top 10, and that was crazy. That was my third time getting on the top 10. I've been just lucky that plays have kind of fallen into my lap. I've
Because you
had
don't
two
control
soft.
that. Like they never throw
Yeah.
in and out. Like they don't throw a commentator on the top 10
Mhm.
for what you're saying, right? Like the play
Yeah.
has to happen for you to
And
call.
yeah, I had that was top 10. A girl had a kick save that we ended up winning the point. And then my sophomore year, there's a play landed at number 6 on top 10. We were playing Northern Kentucky in softball, and a girl robbed a home run over the fence. And then my senior year, junior senior year, we had another softball play. A girl turned a triple play. So like, and that never happens in softball because the bases are so short. So I've been on top 10 3 times. And then the coolest thing for me was 2 years ago, women's basketball. One of our girls hit a half court shot at the end of the third quarter. And I mean, it was a beautiful shot. And my call was at the end of the intro to a Sports Center episode. And so it didn't even make top 10. And it was kind of unfortunate circumstances. So anyone listening, it was just this random night where there were all these half court game winners in basketball. So Max Strus hit a game winner to beat the Dallas Mavericks from beyond half court in the NBA. And there was another college basketball game where there was a game winner from half court. So SportsCenter is not going to get repetitive with the top 10 plays and put a bunch of half court shots. So we watched the top 10, and I always wanted to be on SportsCenter with SVP because Scott Van Pelt's like one of the best in the business. So my mom and I stayed up. SVP goes through, and it's not, and he doesn't do top 10. His top 10's the best things I saw today. It wasn't on that. So we're like, oh, my mom's like, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, you know what? Just stay up for a few more minutes. I've watched enough Sports Center. I know they do like an announcer call at the end of their intro. This is just a shot in the dark. And my voice is on there in the shot. And it was like the coolest thing ever. It's something I'll never forget.
That's sick. It's cool that like being able to have those moments. I think college sports and a lot of college sports media, and I guess I'm part of the problem because I talk about the big schools a lot as well. But the best parts of college sports are some of these smaller schools getting some limelight every once in a while, and that is absolutely a moment where it's cool to see those types of athletes making incredible plays and having a lot of your hard work goes into that too. So it's cool to see that show up. Let's talk a little college football because we are in not quite the middle of the season. It's weird. I like to say that week 8 is the middle of college football because there's 16 weeks. Some weeks have multiple byes. You have week 0, which is like weird, but we're basically right in the middle of college football. There are some teams where I am believers, and there are teams where I am just not a believer at all. And I want to list a couple of these teams to you, and I want to get your thoughts on them because I don't know if I am in the right because I have a pretty biased opinion. I'm a fan of sports myself. So are you a believer in USC? They got dismantled by Notre Dame. It's a tough loss, but it's only 2 losses in the Big Ten. Schedule kind of plays out nice for them. Are you a believer in USC?
I am a believer. I think that Lincoln Riley, and he's gotten a lot of flack over his coaching career of having all this talent and getting teams to a certain point. Caleb Williams a few years ago, they had that Pac-12 championship game where they win and they're in the playoff, but they lose. He was kind of like James Franklin in a way, which I don't know if we'll touch on that, where he hasn't really been able to win that big game during his coaching career. I think he has a really talented team, and I do believe that they can kind of ride out the rest of their schedule and have a chance to maybe not make the Big Ten championship or the playoff, but have a chance to make some noise in a pretty big bowl game. I mean, Jaden Maiava, I think he's a very good quarterback. And the conditions, I think, played a factor last week at Notre Dame. The weather was miserable in those states, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois. USC really couldn't get their offense going. They had a lot of self-inflicted wounds during that game as well. But I will say that I'm a believer that they are a top 25, fringe top 20 team in the country.
Yeah, they have a game on the road at Oregon November 22nd. That is make or break their season. They win that game, I truly think they do have a shot at the playoff to go 10-2. And Notre Dame, not a conference loss. So keeping it moving, the ACC. If I would have told you at the beginning of the year that Georgia Tech was the leader in the ACC, not tied for the lead, not nothing. They are the leader in the ACC, undefeated. Are you a believer in Georgia Tech being a playoff team?
I am. I'm a believer in him. You know, I'm a Haynes King fan. I love the way that Haynes King operates. Doesn't turn the ball over too much.
Man. He's
And
incredible.
you know, it's funny in a way. You go back to their week one game. If they lose that game at Colorado, because Colorado was hanging on and they were up, and then Haynes King had that touchdown run towards the end of the game, which thrust them to that victory. If they lose that game week one, they could have a whole different turnout of their season. But, you know, Haynes King, Haynes, their running back, great 1-2 punch. And they just find a way. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the prettiest victory last week against Duke, but that's a Duke team that is playing really good in the ACC right now. That's a conference that is so wide open. They're like the Big 12 in a way, where I feel like Miami every year, or every other year at least, they're going to get to a high ranking, and then the wheels kind of fall off for some reason at some point. Not saying that they're not going to rebound, but I think Georgia Tech could very well be a playoff team.
Yeah, they just win the ugliest games. The Clemson game was ugly. Win. They went to overtime against Wake Forest. Won. Like there are some just. I think a lot of that has to do with Brent Key being a damn good coach. Like they practice situational football, and when
They
that
had
shit
Georgia on the
happens-
roads last year.
Yeah, like I'm excited for that game. Georgia Tech this year is going to be a lot of fun. Last team on whether or not you're a believer, the BYU Cougars, undefeated, 7-0. Leading the Big 12.
I'm not sure if I'm a believer on them. So I feel like this is kind of like last year, Sam. I want to say it was last year. They're like the Georgia Tech of 2024. There was no reason that they were winning half of the games they were winning. They were unleashing these crazy comebacks and all this. And looking at this year, I mean, the Utah game was kind of ugly last week that they won. I don't know if I'm a believer. I just don't know if they have the firepower for the entire season. They're winning close games again. 3-point win over Colorado, double overtime win against Arizona, 3-point win over Utah. They play Iowa State this week. That's a team that, when they've played their best, they've looked like a top 15 team this year. They still have to go to Texas Tech, a team that should have won this past week at Arizona State, but their starting quarterback was out, and they still almost won the game. They have to go to Cincinnati, a team that has surprised a lot of people this year in that Big 12 conference. I just don't know if BYU can string off that many wins against that many tough teams on the road.
Yeah, I agree there. I like BYU and I like Kalani Sitake. I think he's a great coach. At the end of the day, something has to give in these Big 12 teams. Like Cincinnati's undefeated in Big 12 play, BYU's undefeated in Big 12 play. Like Arizona State has played well. They lost to Mississippi State, but like that's their one loss. There's a lot of really like not great teams in the Big 12, but there's a lot of good teams in the Big 12 that I think could push for that conference title. You brought up the coaches. I think that we are in a very weird area of college football right now where we are figuring out how much it costs in the NIL era to build a roster. It was totally unknown. There were numbers being floated out like 25, 30, $40 million rosters. I think national championship level teams, 25 million seems to be about the number. The problem with paying your players $25 million is that you cannot pay your coaches $100 million, especially if they're not going to be your coach anymore. And we have now seen James Franklin be fired. They had conversations about Mike Norvell. Turns out that they probably didn't want to pay that buyout after they gave him a massive extension 2
Which
years
is
ago.
insane, that buyout.
Yes. And then you have a lot of guys who are like right on the edge. Billy Napier's gone. Hugh Freeze is right on the edge. Brian Kelly's right on the edge. And it comes down to not whether or not you want to fire the guy. It's whether or not you can afford to fire the guy, which is crazy. How many more big-time coaches do you think we're going to see hit the chopping block before the end of this season?
Well, you know, I don't think Brian Kelly should necessarily get the hammer at LSU this year. I just think he's in one of those situations where, and it's kind of like James Franklin. Well, James Franklin, the team kind of snowballed, but LSU, like, they're going to win games and you're going to get a 9-3, 10-2 season. I find it so hard. I don't think that you can get rid of a coach that is winning you 9-10 games a season like he is. But also LSU's fan base, they're one of those fan bases, they're always looking for a champion. Oklahoma, I thought they were getting in kind of some rough waters with Brent Venables. With the way that they lost to Texas, I thought that could be a coach. With the way that they played last year and the way that they lost the Red River rivalry this year. But honestly, I think it's so tough to gauge, from a coaching perspective, the guys are going to get let go because of the buyout standpoint. You talked about Mike Norvell. His buyout's like $50 million, which is absurd. Billy Napier, I kind of felt bad that he got let go after a win. But the fan bases of college football, they don't have a lot of patience nowadays. And I think a lot more noise and negativity is spewed out. And it's kind of a tough thing. It goes with NIL. When fans find out how much money that these programs are paying the players, it puts a lot more pressure on the coach because a lot of these people are putting their hard-earned money on the line for these 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are not producing, which I think is a really bad thing, but it's the world that we live in.
Yeah, we are in an awkward position, and I was listening to another podcast today that kind of talked about it, where it's like they used to, and they're a little bit older than I am, but they're like, I used to not shit on players because they were college athletes trying to be college athletes, and like it's not fair to put that much expectation on 18 to 22-year-old kids. And he goes on to make the point that now it's a lot easier to shit on those kids because those 18 to 22-year-old kids are making quadruple your salary, 5 times your salary, which that's the exception, right? Most of these guys are not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but some of them are, especially quarterbacks. So it's hard to sit here and be like, well, they're just kids when they're making big boy money. And I don't know, you feel bad because, like, is it a player's fault that they're not being developed correctly or used correctly, or maybe they're playing through injury? In the NFL, you got a contract. You play through that because you have a contract. You play through some shit. In college football, it's like, oh man, I'm not feeling it. Maybe I don't, play through this injury. But now, well, sorry, Bryce Underwood, you're a $10 million guy. Like, I expect you to play every snap that you can. It puts these college athletes in a really weird spot, especially when the contracts aren't like ironclad the same way that NFL contracts are.
And you were talking about, the development aspect and kind of these players taking these flack. A guy that I always look at is Drew Aller. I mean, my goodness, the pressure that was put on that guy. And I always have a soft spot for Drew. So, like I said, I'm an Ohio State guy, Ohio State fan. But Drew Aller is a Northeast Ohio guy. He's from Medina, Ohio, which is about hour 20 away from where I live. And I remember I watched him in high school, and he worked out at Youngstown State, which is also another reason I kind of have a soft spot for him because he has highlights of him working out in our indoor facility when he was in high school. And I get it, people expected more from him, but there are a few college football players I've seen take as much on the chin as Drew Aller did, and I always kind of kept his head up. And then just the way that his college career really had to end a few weeks ago with that injury against Northwestern, I just felt gutted for him, because he faced adversity so many times. And I guess I can't necessarily call what I see as much because I don't watch Penn State every week, but the flack on Drew Aller has kind of shifted to everyone blaming James Franklin for not progressing him and not putting Aller in an offense that he can succeed in, which is another funny thing, speaking of Youngstown State, how everything comes full circle, because Aller's first year as a starter, Penn State's offensive coordinator, Mike Yursich, got fired in the middle of the season. And he's now the offensive coordinator at Youngstown State, which is funny, but yeah, it's just a full circle moment. But Drew Aller, that's a guy that I'll always kind of root for. And I know a lot of people in Northeast Ohio, whether you're an Ohio State fan or not, we're always kind of rooting for Aller in their corner.
Yeah, there is not many places in the country that root for their guys quite like Ohio football. Like Texas football does it, Texas high school football, Florida high school football, Georgia, Bama high school football, but Ohio high school football is like, it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, I'm an Indiana guy, but like I grew up knowing about Ohio high school football, especially like the Cincinnati area. There are dudes who will die supporting those high school guys no matter where they go.
And there's kind of different parts of Ohio where there's kind of just football powerhouses. Cincinnati, you have your Archbishop Moelers, you have your St. Xavier's, And then Columbus area, you kind of have your Pickerington Centrals, your Pickerington Norths. And then Cleveland has St. Edward, which is huge. Akron area kind of has that Archbishop Hoban, Massillon, Washington. And then the Youngstown area, Youngstown's kind of population-wise getting a little bit smaller, so you're not seeing as many athletes. But, I mean, when I was growing up, so I'm from Hubbard, Ohio, which is a suburb of Youngstown. When I grew up, Hubbard had L.J. Scott, who ended up going on to Michigan State, and he got Michigan State into the college football playoff. He had the game-winning touchdown against Iowa in the Big Ten title game in 2016. So that's kind of a guy that I grew up and idolized. A year younger than LJ was Lynn Bowden, who ended up he had actually initially committed to Indiana out of high school, decommitted, and then went to Kentucky, where he became, he won the Paul Hornung Award, which is the most versatile player in high school football. Maurice Clarett back in the day, before he went to Ohio State, he's from Warren Harding, which they produced crazy talent year after year. They had Clarett on the same high school team. They had Maurice Clarett. They had Mario Manningham, who ended up going to Michigan, made a huge play in the Super Bowl for the New York Giants in 2012, I want to say, 2011. They had Prescott Burgess, who was a 10-year vet in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens. And then right after those guys left, Daniel Boom Herron was at Warren Harding. He went to Ohio State, played for the Indianapolis Colts. There's a lot of talent in Ohio high school football, and the atmospheres, are just so insane. There was a state title game 2 years ago, and another cool thing about Ohio football is the state title games are played at the Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, which is where the Hall of Fame game is played. And Massillon played Hoban in the state title game a few years ago, and I mean there were 20,000 people at that game. Like it was an incredible atmosphere.
Love it. Hey, high school football, shout out. We got to talk some college hoops, though, before we round out the show, because at the end of the day, that's how we, came to join forces a little bit. And the AP Top 25 dropped. There are some teams on here that I am very, very excited to watch play basketball. Just the style with which they play, whether it's some of the transfers they brought in, some freshmen. Purdue, first time preseason AP #1 team. Shout out Mount Painter. You have BYU with AJ DeBansa. I think is going to be an unbelievably fun team. Michigan State teetering in at that bottom end of the top 25. You have Mark Pope at Kentucky. Like the expectations are still there. There's a lot of talent at Florida, right? Coming off a national title at 3. They lose a ton off of that roster, but they bring back a shitload of very productive minutes. Who are some of the college basketball teams that you are just excited to take? Because we're in secret scrimmage season, which has become not so secret scrimmage season.
Yeah.
We're in that era of college basketball where, like, it's time. You can start feeling it in the air.
And, I'll say one thing. So, you're as big of a college basketball fan as I am. Something that I pray for every year, and it's just not going to come back. It's never going to be the same. Bring back the tip-off marathon. When I was growing up,
dude, the tip-off marathon for the youths out there who never got to experience that.
Oh my gosh!
With strict parents, because that was also probably much more likely. They used to have 24 hours of college hoops. I'm not talking like, they'd play some reruns during the. No, there would be a team that would be like, fuck it, we have the 4 a.m. Eastern time slot. Like, that's us.
They packed
them. It would be Tarleton State and, Texas Corpus Christi. And it would be fucking awesome. They need to bring that back so bad, especially in an era now where streaming is as popular or more popular than it has ever been. And I don't like to be like, but sports gambling, it would be kind of cool for the sports bettors out there. But just for the sicko, disgusting college basketball fans who are like, yeah, give me that. Like I'd take off a day of work. I would take off a day of work to watch, like, if college basketball started at midnight, like on a Friday night into a Saturday, it's like, yeah, give that to me. They absolutely should bring that back. It's a crime against college basketball. You want to expand the tournament? No. That's incorrect.
No, never.
Start the other way. Start the other direction. Make the first day of college basketball every sicko's dream, where they just play 24 hours of consecutive hoops.
Yep. So, and I'd especially want to experience that at the age that I'm at now. So it stopped probably my freshman year of high school. And I remember, I don't know why, but the best year ever. I gotta say, I was in 5th grade, I want to say. And for some reason, we had a waiver day that Tuesday. It would always drop on a Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the season. So it would technically start on Monday night. And another story about the tip-off marathon, a memory I have, was 2012. Youngstown State wasn't part of the tip-off marathon. We played the night before at Georgia on ESPNU for some random reason. And they had Contavious Caldwell-Pope. And YSU went on the road and led wire to wire and beat Georgia. That's one of my fondest basketball memories ever. But the tip-off marathon, so you know how this goes. It's always Gonzaga. It was always Gonzaga at 11 p.m. They'd play someone. And then 1 a.m. would be, it kind of randomized, but Hawaii was always playing at like 3 a.m. because of the time zone. You'd get your Northeast mid-major schools, like 7 a.m. would always be like Vermont against Wagner. And then you'd have Stony Brook against Yale. And then it would lead the whole day into the Champions Classic at night. You'd have Kentucky, the 4 teams, Kentucky, Duke, I'm blanking, Kentucky, Duke, Michigan State.
UNC?
UNC. Is it UNC? No. It doesn't matter. But it would always lead into the Champions Classic. Kansas. That's it.
Yeah.
So the start of the college basketball season is like none other. It was like none other with the tip-off marathon. And then Feast Week, I'd put that week up against any sports week on the calendar. I mean,
Feast Week is incredible.
That's pretty much the closest I think we'll ever get back to the tip-off marathon, because that's the only week you'll have, because no one's at work. So you'd have like a Tuesday, and it would be or I guess Monday. Monday would be the first day of Maui. So, that's a disgrace in its own. The Maui is never going to be what it is because of that MTE tournament in Vegas that everyone's going to because it pays out the winner. Yeah. Maui's never going to be the same, but I'm getting off topic. College basketball teams that I think can make some noise this year. I mean, I'm looking at
that question was 5 minutes ago. We just went on an all-time college hoops.
No.
God.
I mean, that could be content. I've always thought, and I think I'm going to do it, I want to make a video so bad on talking about bring back the tip-off marathon. I just went down a rabbit hole. Teams that I think are going to produce this year. Houston's going to be interesting because Kelvin Sampson is pretty much his whole career. He's all about the experience. He's never playing freshman. He brought in an amazing recruiting class and guys that are going to have to see the floor as freshmen. I still feel so bad for Houston the way that they lost the title game last season. Brutal. UConn, I'm excited to see how they play with Coach Hurley. Florida's going to be good. Purdue, nothing against them. I always just hate them just because I'm an Ohio State fan and I have to watch them run the Big Ten every year. BYU with DeBansa is going to be really good. Louisville, I'm excited to see, were they a one-year wonder, or are they going to be able to get back to stability of being a top 15 program year in, year out? Arkansas with Coach Cal, I'm always a fan of Coach Cal. I'm excited to see what they do. And then, 18 to 25 is really interesting in the poll because you have Tennessee, Kansas, Auburn. Now, no one knows what Auburn's going to be because Bruce Pearl's not the head coach anymore. I know it's in the family, but it's not the same. Gonzaga at 21, MSU at 22.
Grant Foster not getting eligibility at Gonzaga.
That's huge.
Huge for them because he was incredible at Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I feel for him. That 18 to 25 is full of teams that we're used to seeing in the top 10. I'd imagine most of those teams are going to pop up. North Carolina, I could see them starting off like 8-0, 9-0, and then just falling off like they have.
That team is so it's just I need to see it mesh because I just don't. I'm not a believer in that.
I don't know. And I mean, some other teams that aren't in the top 25 that I'm looking at that are receiving votes that interest me. NC State with Will Wade, can he translate with some of the guys from McNeese? Can he translate that winning back to the Power 4 level? You have San Diego State. I've been hearing a whole bunch about them out of the Mountain West this year, that they're going to be one of those prime San Diego State teams. USC, I got to give them a shout out because they have a former Youngstown State guy in Gabe Dines. He's got to be the tallest player in college basketball. He's 7'4". I saw they had an exhibition against Loyola Marymount last night or 2 nights ago, and he had 7 blocks for USC in that game. And then Utah State, I got to go back to the Youngstown State roots. Jared Calhoun, who got us out of the gutter in men's basketball, won us a Horizon League regular season title 3 years ago. Went to Utah State last year, kept that NCAA tournament resume on the line at Utah State. He's like their 4th coach in 5 years. They have a lot of guys that I think is going to make them a dangerous team. You said you're from Indiana, right?
Yes, sir.
I see them with one vote at the bottom of the poll. We'll see what they do with a new man at the helm.
Yeah, I like DeVries, but like I don't. So I'm not an Indiana Hoosier guy. I'm a Notre Dame fan, and
okay.
Don't get me wrong, Notre Dame basketball, love them to death. I will go watch a bunch of women's games because Ivy is an incredible coach, and they have a great roster. Hannah Hidalgo, shout out. But the Indiana Hoosiers fans are very hesitant. They're very hesitant because they've been burnt just so many years. They always had a ceiling. That's the problem with Indiana basketball is the ceiling is supposed to be national championships. They just weren't able to get there, and now can DeVries take you there after he had 1 year at West Virginia. Like his best player got hurt. Like I thought that I would have wanted to see more out of him, but they made the hire. That's the move. I feel like a positive direction for the Indiana Hoosiers, but at the end of the day, a positive direction isn't good enough for the state of Indiana. Like, this is a state that has Butler, Notre Dame, Purdue, Indiana. Like, there's so much competition for competitive basketball in this state that Indiana should never lose that recruiting battle ever. And they haven't been.
You brought up Notre Dame. Man,
I like Shrews.
I think Notre Dame, well, it's actually kind of funny. So I was actually in attendance. I was one of the limited number of people in attendance for Micah Shrewsbury's first game at Penn State. They played Youngstown State, and I went with the team to that game. So, yeah, that was during COVID. It was the 21-22 season. No, 21-22 season. It was his first ever game at Penn State, so that was kind of cool. I was there for that. But Notre Dame, I think, is one of those teams that they're in that cliche of college basketball is better when this team's good. I think Notre Dame falls under that. I mean, those early to mid 2010s teams with Mike Brey as the coach, when they had, the Grant brothers and Matt Farrell and Zach August and Pat Connaughton, I'll never forget. I have these like random college basketball memories from growing up. One of the random memories I have, and you'll probably remember this game. It was old. I want to say it was still Big East. Notre Dame played Louisville, and College Game Day was there, and the game went to like 5 overtimes. Yep. And I remember staying up all night watching that game. Notre Dame kept hitting these shot after shot after shot to extend the game. That's one of those like random college basketball memories I have from growing up. I want to say that was like 2012 or 2013.
It was 2013, 104, 101, 5 overtimes.
College Game Day was there.
Yep.
Dickie V on the call. Like, there's nothing like early 2010s, mid 2010s college basketball to me. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, look, something about that time period was incredible. Like there were just a lot of good college hoopers then, and they went on to have like very successful NBA careers. But I think college basketball, I will say that, like, I think it's in as good of a spot now as it has ever been. College basketball's in a great spot. There's a lot of good announcers. Like, there's a lot of good coaches with some
and there's parity.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I think there's a lot of parity. Most definitely, 100%.
I'm going to put you under the gun here before we head out. You have to pick a national champion, college hoops, prior to the start of the season. And you can't pick Youngstown State because I know that you would pick Youngstown State. Unfortunately, I'm not going to allow you to pick them for the sake of this show because we can't have any bias here. You know what I mean? Like, I would absolutely never pick Notre Dame every single time they play any other team. So, Anthony, I've stalled long enough. I've let you, stew in your brain a little bit here. Who is your 25-26 college basketball national champion?
So, I'm kind of in the boat of you where if I'm rooting, I'm saying Ohio State. but I don't think they're national championship caliber this season in the sport of basketball. Give me, drum roll please, St. John's. Rick Pitino
Coach
is leading
Pitino
them
gets
to the title this year.
title at a fourth school. I mean, that would be.
They're starting the year ranked number 5 in the country. They had such a storybook season this past season, and it all kind of crumbled in the NCAA tournament.
So quick in the tournament.
I don't know. I'm a Pitino believer. I don't know what it is. And, looking at the teams in the top 6, I'll count Duke in there. You have your Purdue's, Houston's, Florida's, Connecticut's, St. John's, Duke. I don't want to kind of pick a team that everyone else is going to pick. I would say probably Houston might be the favorite because they bring back a lot of studs from that team last year. I'm trying to find the name real quick. So, yes, it's the trio of Emmanuel Sharp, Joseph Tugler, and Milo Suzanne. They're going to be probably the favorite, I'd say, to win the title because of the talent they bring in and the talent they bring back. But I'd just love to see a school like St. John's, who has basketball history kind of pre-2000, return and get back to the title game because I think that would be a feel-good story.
I love that. You will be shocked to know that St. John's, and maybe am I missing them? I'm trying to look up the title odds for college hoops. Maybe they can't. I don't know. Maybe you can't bet them. That's weird. But I don't have them like. They're plus 165 to win the Big East, so they should have national title odds. I guess this is just the website I'm looking at.
So who are the favorites? Probably Houston, Purdue, UConn, Duke.
Yeah, Purdue. So you named off the top 4 there. Florida, Kentucky, Michigan. St. John's has the 7th best odds at plus 1900, which is interesting. I'm not going to count out Pitino. I also do love that the teams that are in the top here, like Louisville is right below, Kentucky is right above. Like it is just Pitino's got his hands all over everything. It's,
all over it.
It's great. It's cinema. So
Michigan's an interesting.
Thank you. Oh yeah, Michigan, dude. Dusty May was. I thought for sure that Indiana was going to do everything in their power to get him to come down to Bloomington, and it just never
didn't work.
Didn't work. I like Dusty May a lot. He was great at FAU, but Anthony, thank you for coming on. Make sure you guys go follow 330 Sports Report on Instagram, TikTok. We gotta get the Instagram numbers up because that platform's disrespecting your content a little bit.
Yeah,
you deserve significantly more over there.
I've really started. I didn't really post on the Instagram account that much until the first TikTok shutdown scare in January. I was like, oh crap, I gotta find a way to get this rolling. And now I'm really starting to post on it. It's really started to take off, knock on wood, as of late. I'm almost at 3,000 followers on Instagram, but hopefully it continues to roll. The effort's going to be continue to put in. It's just, I think the numbers will come eventually, and I just love making content. If it's a video that doesn't go crazy, I'm not mad about it because at the end of the day, you got to like what you're doing. And I think you feel the same way. Not every video is going to go crazy, but as long as you have the urge.
I would be talking about sports whether I have a platform or not. Brother, I'm watching the games. I'm going to talk about them. You know what I mean? Whether it's to my wife and she hates me after 16 hours of hearing about, the MVC and how the MVC tournament formats changed. But look, I love this shit. So make sure you go give Anthony a follow. Go check out all of his stuff. It'll be linked in the description of the podcast or YouTube, wherever you're watching. Speaking of, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you made it to this point in the show. Be a friend, tell a friend, because that's the best way. We are closing it in on 600 subscribers. So I really appreciate each and every one of you, the All-Americans. Y'all are the best, and we will see you in the next one.